Hey, how's it going? Uh, yeah, no, it's been a while, right? Uh, been extremely busy. Uh, busy doing everything except uh, firearms classes. Tennessee is a uh, uh, permitless carry state now. I don't want to say constitutional carry because that would be an improper term. Uh, our method of permitless carry has nothing to do with the Constitution. Uh, But because of that, our permit classes have fallen way off. Obviously, people think that when you strap on a pistol, along with that comes the knowledge to know when to judiciously use that pistol and to fight the subsequent battle in the courtroom. Uh, the gunfight is only the first stage of winning. You understand? Now, it's a pretty important stage because if you don't win there, the second part of the battle is not going to involve you. But nonetheless, our permit classes have dropped way off. Our advanced classes, because of the price of ammo, have also dropped way off. Uh, you know, when you're going to spend $250 on advanced classes, and the ammo is going to cost you $1,000, well, that kind of puts a damper on you seeking some good training. So those have been slow as well. But hey, I've been doing other things. I've got to go camping several times with my wife and friends, and I have really enjoyed having uh, Saturdays off every month. And that's something that I haven't done in 22 years since armed response has been a thing. So, uh, really been enjoying that. Obviously, have been involved in our Bible study that we have here every Sunday. Been really wrapped up in studying my Bible because I think we're quickly heading toward a time that is the time that is most talked about in Scripture. So, been busy with that, and just thought I'd take some time today to come out and do a video and let everybody know that I haven't forgot about you and that I still intend to make videos. Uh, I am about to become unemployed because my employer has determined that I shall have no other gods before them. And if they thought that was going to fly with me, they don't know me very well. So uh, if I owe you money, you better get it quick. But I wanted to talk to you today about something that's near and dear to my heart. Uh, most gun guys, whether you know it or not, are also big fans of knives. Okay. Now, I've got a few what I consider to be cool knives. Some of them get used a lot. Some of them don't get used very much anymore. But I remember that from the time I was probably 15 or 16 until I got old enough to actually carry a pistol with me everywhere I went for my daily activities like hunting and fishing and riding and roping. No, I never did much roping, but that always sounds good using those together. Uh, if I couldn't have a handgun, I always carried a knife. And of course, a knife is a huge tool to carry with you to do so many tasks. And uh, one of the first ones that I ever carried a lot. I started carrying this probably in, well, I can tell you because there's a date code on the blade. And this is a Western, that's the brand name, Western, model W49. It was a very highly priced bowie. Back in the day, I guess still is. I kind of freaked out when I went to eBay actually looking for an original sheath for this and saw these things on auctions, you know, bringing $200 and $300 depending on the condition, and that blew my mind. This one is a W49D, so I think according to the date codes, they started using letters of the alphabet in 1977, so I think that would make this one a 1980, which would be about right. That's about the time that I purchased this. This was a gift from my grandmother, Ethel Spaulding. She actually bought this for me. She saw me in the store really giving it an eye over, and I think back in the day it was like 40 bucks. Well, you can figure 40 bucks in 1980. It was a pretty pricey knife, but it's good steel. It's carbon steel, not stainless. And this sheath I actually made myself. This is elk hide, and the fringes and the elk hide actually match a pair of Apache style boots that came up to my knees that I used to wear a lot, and actually wore them so much they've been resold twice. So of course I haven't worn them in years, but this matched those, so I made a pretty dapper looking figure with that hanging off my hip and my boots to match. I always keep them, of course, shaving sharp. Okay. Just like I always try to keep all my guns clean and in good working order, I try to do the same with my knives. The next one that kind of took the place of that one is actually an old school Uncle Henry, and I say old school because it's probably it's probably from the 80s. It is also high carbon steel. You can tell by the tink, tink, tink. And of course you can look at this one and you can tell it's been used a lot. This is the UH, this is the 171 UH, made in USA. All these I'm going to show you are made in the USA. Now you can get these that look a whole lot like this right now for probably about 30-35 bucks. But I can tell you the steel is not the same. This was a very important knife to me in that just about every deer that I've ever taken, this is what I used to field dress them. And I carried it every time I went hunting. If I got away from the house and realized that I didn't have this with me, I didn't shoot a deer that day. That's how important this thing was to me, because I could take this thing razor sharp like it is and get that deer on the ground, make a small cut to put my fingers in and lay this right there and just hold that hide up and just unzip them all the way down. Just very easy. Also, one deer that I shot with an arrow. I don't know how it happened, but I guess when the broadhead hit the ribs, it paralyzed her like from the shoulders back, and she couldn't get up. It was a good hit, but it was a long shot, and I had to finish her with this, and I was ready for a lot of resistance when I used this in her heart, uh, in her front of her chest wall. Uh, so I was ready for a great resistance, and I remember just how easily it slipped in, and I quickly put her uh, out of this realm and into the next one. But it's been a really good knife, and kind of kind of legendary with my kids. You know, they're like, "Where's your knife? Where's your knife?" Because they've used it a couple times too, especially Nathan. He really likes using it. Now I've used it so much that the stitching is coming out. That's something you can fix yourself. It doesn't have to be. And at this point, I'm only missing a few stitches right here, so I'm not really worried about it right now. But it'll eventually get to a point where I'll have to take it all and enlarge those holes and go ahead and restitch this myself. Speaking of just doing things myself, here's a little project that I did. Uh, Getting one of the really great old Hickory butcher knives. Believe it or not, they're still made here. They're made by the Ontario Knife Company. And I took one of their regular long butcher knives and I cut the blade with a high-speed cutter and reshaped the end. And just like all the others, it's shaving sharp. Okay. And just to see if I could do it, I made it a really good like bush knife. It's got a really good 90-degree cut across the flat here, so you can spark a ferro rod really good with it. And as far as the sheath, I just made this sheath. This is like a 15-minute sheath. You know, you just kind of put it on your belt. And the way I turned the edge around here, it works cool because when you do put it on your belt, it pulls tight and it won't let the knife fall out of the sheath. So, and of course, I put the lanyard loop in it and the little piece of paracord, and just one of those things you could do. I did this knife probably in an afternoon, sheath it on, and it's just I think it's pretty cool. One of my latest projects that I'm really proud of actually started in I believe it was 2001, opening day of deer season 2001, and I had been usually when I deer hunt, I deer hunt like all day. You know, I don't come home at like 10:30, and in my experience, I see bigger deer, especially depending on the phase of the moon. I tend to see bigger bucks, you know, from 11:30 to about 2 p.m. So this particular opening day, I stayed out from about a half hour before daylight. I was in the stand and actually ate a snack in the stand. Went to it dawned on me I really needed to go to the bathroom. So I had been putting it off for a while. So I didn't want to pee at my stand, obviously. And the rifle that I had with me that day was my sniper rifle. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be hunting from a stand, So what's it going to hurt if I have an 11-pound rifle? It's not like I'm going to be stalking through the woods, right? So I got my Savage FP 110 in 308 with with the big objective scope and my Harris bipod on it. So I decided to walk down to the end of the ridge that I was on before I peed. So I lowered the rifle down with the paracord. I get down there, put a round back in the chamber, put the safety on, and I walk all the way down to the end of the ridge. Now this ridge I'm on is probably 75, 80 feet higher than the ground where it falls off at the end of the ridge, and there's a creek at the bottom. So I'm right on the peak of this ridge, just looking, doing my thing, and I hear dry leaves moving down in the little holler there, for lack of a better term, beside me. I don't want to say valley because it wasn't that big, it's not like valley size. So it's a holler, and I look up and there is a really nice buck coming through. Well, hey, I'm a left-hander. He's on the side that's good for me. But I've got a 10-pointer on the wall. I don't hunt for antlers, okay? I will, if I see one bigger than the one I've got on the wall, I will be tempted to take it. This one appeared like he might have more mass and definitely more width than the one I had on the wall. Now the one I got on the wall is a very high rack. The G2 tines are like 11 and a half inches long on each side, so it's a really tall rack, good looking rack. And I thought, you know what, this one might have mine beat. So as I was watching him, I decided to let him go. I thought, well, he's an 8-point, and he may have a little bigger beams, may have a little more width, but definitely probably not as majestic looking as my 10-point, what I call wide glide. So as I was watching him through my scope, he went out and he crossed the creek and started up. Well, somebody, and I don't know who, but somebody on some adjoining land must have been squirrel hunting, because I heard from a pretty good distance away a .22 rifle crack. Well, he stopped right there at that creek. He decided that since he'd heard that, he was going to turn around. Well, he turned around and come back. Now I'm standing on this ridge, right? He comes back across the creek, goes around in front of me, and comes up this other holler, or branch, or valley, whatever you want to call it. And so now I'm thinking, no, I'm supposed to take this deer. Okay, it's just something I'm supposed to do. So now here I am, breeches unzipped, standing in dry leaves. So every move I make, I know, and he's already hyper alert. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He's hyper alert. So rather than turn my body so that I can get a left-handed shot at this pretty good 8-point buck, I decide I'm going to shoot him right-handed. Now, naturally, I don't have my 6.5-pound little Ruger 243 or even my Model 70 Winchester. I've got this 11-pound, 1-inch thick, heavy barrel, 26-inch barrel sniper rifle. Okay, now I'm going to be shooting offhand at probably 100 yards with my weekend and breeches unzipped. So I get the rifle up, I get him mounted, I watch where he comes in, and he stops with his sweet spot right behind this big trunk of a tree. And I'm like, oh, shoot. I'm holding and I'm holding, and now I'm getting tired because I got this big, heavy rifle. shooting it right-handed, which is something I try to do all the time with my pistol. You know, I shoot weekend a lot. With a rifle, I don't do it near as much as I should, and everybody should. You should practice it because it's got me a prize coyote one time by being able to shoot right-handed because he was also hyper alert. And if I'd have repositioned my body to take the shot, he would have seen me and been gone. But so I wait and I wait and I wait, and finally he takes a step out from behind that tree trunk, and I put one exactly where it needs to be. He takes about 2 hops and he's down. But the moral of the story is that his antlers, I just did like a European mount, and they have been in my utility room for, well, 20 years. And watching again the Sackets with Sam Elliott and Tom Selleck, I saw that awesome Bowie knife that Sam Elliott carries. I don't know if we ever get to see the blade, but just that big stag handle on that Bowie knife, you know, it makes your mouth water. You just want one bad. So I had an old rifle kit, an old CVA Bowie knife kit that I had bought at Dixie Gun Works when I was probably, I don't know, 16 maybe. Really good carbon steel, blade made in the USA. It had a square handguard right here, and I reshaped that. I took the antlers from that 8-pointer that I killed in 2001 and picked the best one for the best grip for a left-handed grip, because that's, you know, hey, I'm left-handed, and I fashioned now this knife, of course, was a rat tail, so I brought this back and I actually bent it so that it would follow the path of this, and then I filled that with epoxy, actually Acroglass from Brownells that you bet a stock with. It's a really good, strong epoxy, and filled that after I got this on there, and I screwed the tang cap on and inset it down into the antler here, and I'm just, man, I'm really proud of this one, and it's like the others, it's a shaver, and I'm just really proud of the way this turned out. Now, obviously, it came with a leather sheath that you put together yourself, and it laced together kind of like this one did. Well, I don't think it did justice to this knife, and besides, I can't find it. I have no idea what I've done with it. This knife with its original grip sat in my mom and dad's garage for years. So I don't know whatever happened to the sheath that came with it. So I said about last week or week before last, I wanted to make me a sheath that was really worthy of the look of the knife. So here's what I came up with. This is a really high quality leather sheath. I of course made I cut it all out from a piece of side that my dad had. My dad, some of you know, he does leather work and kind of repairs horse tack and stuff, being a horse guy. And you know, he's got him a little leather shop, and I put this one together myself, stitched it, got good stitching, and set a brass keeper so that, you know, to hold the knife to keep it from sliding out. Now, of course, it being a custom sheath that fits the knife very well, but now over time the knife will loosen up in there. And of course, I boned the edges here so you can see. I put some close-up shots of it in the video when it's finished, but I, I'm really proud. I'm as proud of the sheath as I am the knife. But I want some of y'all to think about that. If you've got old deer antlers sitting around that, maybe at one time in your hunting life, you were really proud of those antlers, but since then, you've moved on. You've gotten bigger deer. I know around here the deer have gotten much bigger in the last 20 years. And think about doing some of these projects like that. I thought this was really cool, and it turned a cool knife into a much cooler knife. So, so now when my gun guys buddies, they see this, they're like, their mouths water, because it reminds them of that big stag handle knife that Sam Elliott used in the Sackets. But leather work isn't anything new to me. I've been ever since my dad has had a leather shop, I've been kind of out there doing my own thing. I make my own guitar straps. I think unique guitars should have unique guitar straps. So I've got a beautiful Les Paul, Gibson Les Paul, in a honey burst. And for those of you that don't know, mine's a traditional Les Paul. It doesn't have any chamber cuts in it. It's just like they made them back in the day. So my particular Les Paul goes probably just a shade over 11 pounds, extremely heavy. So to make up for that, you need a really heavy strap. And I made this, and I make these straps out of tubes of leather. And what that means is I take like garment leather and I stitch a tube, and then I turn it inside out, which that's a pretty, or outside in, I guess you could say. That's a pretty amazing trick how I pull that off too. And then, so it gives me two good layers of leather. With that Les Paul being so heavy, I wanted some extra padding. So, and of course, making them for yourself, you can custom make them to where they're the perfect length. But I wanted my length to be a little adjustable. So here's what I did. I made this tube, and then I made this tube. Then I slid them together so that their seams kind of offset each other. You see how that is? And so that when you feel this area, it almost feels like padding. But what it is two of these tubes. One ran inside the other. And then to adjust it for length, I just poke these holes. So if I ever want to change the length, all I got to do is unlace this, drag it as far apart as I need to, or shove it in a little more, and poke some new holes. And then of course I put my name, hand tool. All of them either have, all the straps I make either have my name on it or my initials or something. And of course that's all hand stitched. As you can tell, anytime you do hand stitching on something, realize it's never going to look like a machine stitch. At least I'm not that good. Some people may be. But here's the thing. It looks handmade. And those stitches that you put are much better than any machines are. As a matter of fact, if this Uncle Henry had been hand stitched, it wouldn't be coming apart now after all these years. So I'll give you another example of a strap I made. Now, like I said, the Les Paul is really heavy, so I wanted a good heavy leather, and I wanted some kind of padding, so I just doubled it up right here. So where it lays across the peak of my shoulder, I have padding. And just the opposite is my Martin D18. I don't know if you're aware of Martin guitars, but they're very finely crafted. I have a Martin D18, and unlike my Les Paul, that Martin D18 is as light as a feather. I mean, it's airy, and you can hear it in the way it sounds. It's just beautiful sounding guitar. While the density of the wood gives the Les Paul its sustain, the airiness of that D18 just gives it a beautiful acoustic sound. And so this leather I used is a very soft and supple garment leather. And I made a tube, just like on the Les Paul, and turned it outside in. And then I put these little conchos on here with the little tassels. And this strap, and of course my initials are on the ends right there. Just like the D18 that it supports, this strap is very light, very airy, and very comfortable to wear. So I've got custom straps on all my main guitars. That old Telly that I play all the time, that 77 Telly that I bought brand new, it has a custom made strap that I made for it. And my 1976 Gibson Firebird, it has a custom made strap for it. And so leather work is one of those things I enjoy doing. And I guess my biggest trouble with leather work is that sometimes I get in a hurry, and you really shouldn't do that. You should take your time. Now, I did this sheath probably a little quicker than I should have, but as you can see, I was going to mount the thumb snap a little lower right here, and then it dawned on me, you probably should have done that. You probably should have sewed that before you sewed the sheath together. But two, I like having the thread a different color than the leather. So you got to think ahead of time. And there's any sewing or anything you want done on the back, you probably should dye this before stitching, and then stitch this together before you stitch this together. So a little more planning on my part might have been good, but I'm really happy with the way that come out, man. And that sheath, as soon as the dye is really set good and it's worn a little bit, I'm going to condition that leather real good. That sheath is going to last 200 years. It'll outlast probably planet Earth. But I just wanted to show you some knives, because gun guys generally are knife guys too. And my last question, and you can answer this in the comments. No, I'm not going to let you answer it in the comments. I'm going to answer it for you. But when we're talking about Bowie knives, how big is too big? I'll go ahead and answer that for you. You can't make a Bowie knife too big. The bigger the better. I think that this is probably not much shorter than the Roman short sword, okay? But as you can see, it's razor sharp, and I have used it to. I have really abused it. I use it to trim trees around the yard and heavy bushes. If something's in my way, I just go grab it and just give it a good lick and take it right off there. So knives are cool, guns are cool. Hope you like this video, and keep watching. I'm going to try to start doing them a little more often. And I know I say that all the time, but you know how things are. But just keep an eye out, and y'all take care. Pray for our country. My gosh. Did you ever think you'd live in a nation, in an America that's screwed up? So pray for our country. It's headed in the absolute wrong direction. And I will talk to you later. Thank you.